Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico, and on behalf of Street Scores, presenting from the Commanders Kings, we're here to break down a lot of crazy stats from this past game against the Saints. Before we get into this Eagles game, which y'all are going to watch very soon by the time y'all actually get this out of the way, we're here to talk about Jayden Daniels being the best rookie quarterback ever. We're talking about Terry McLaurin being a top 2 receiver. Not top 10, not top 5, top 2. Lattimore is already all pro level good. We're going to talk about a couple of more corners because it's not just Lattimore. 2 more corners that the Commanders have that are also playing top 10 level worthy. But before we get into everything, make sure you stiff on that like button, stiff on the subscription button, and make sure you support every channel for the Commanders Kings. Of course, this main channel right here, but of course, go ahead and go over to Ed Oliver, the real Ed Oliver's page. Follow, subscribe to him, every social media. Same thing with my dog Rio Robinson. Same thing to my boy Louie T. Make sure you follow and subscribe to us everywhere. But of course, make sure you always double back and come back to this Commanders Kings channel. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so let's start with offense again, and this is just pure stats. So most of this is going to be rapid fire. I'm just going to be running through these things. So let's go ahead and buckle up. Let's, keep your hands and feet inside the ride at all times. First of all, again, starting with the offense, Washington has scored points in the first quarter in 13 straight games. Just to let you know, that is the longest active streak in the NFL. You could argue we are the best first quarter team in the NFL just off of that stat alone. No other team in the NFL has scored a touchdown, points, or anything in the first quarter this long except for us. And then also, at a certain point in the game, we had moved past the 1981 team for 10th all-time in franchise history in rushing yards by a burgundy and gold team in a single season. Shouts out to Cliff Kingsbury and company for that one. Also, just to let you know, Jayden Daniels led the Commanders in rushing against the Saints. It was a pretty ugly game. Brian Robinson was held to 3.1 yards per carry. It was not a good game. I blame Michael Dieter for the majority of that because he ran 20 times just to get 45 yards, but Jayden Daniels' legs came up big time, which is a perfect segue into some Jayden Daniels stats. A lot of really interesting ones. First of all, that Jayden Daniels to Terry McLaurin touchdown, the very first one of the game, that 16-yard touchdown, just to let you know, they had a time to throw of 8.04 seconds. That is Jayden Daniels' second touchdown this season of a time to throw of over 8 seconds. First of all, that's the most in the NFL, but that doesn't necessarily put it exactly into perspective of how rare this is. There have only been 7 such touchdowns in the NFL this season. 7. A time to throw of 8 seconds or longer only 7 times, and Jayden Daniels is 2 of them. Also, Terry McLaurin only had a target separation of 0.7 yards, so give credit for Jayden Daniels for throwing it into a tight window, and Terry McLaurin for being able to, even though he body caught it, catch it in all of that traffic. Also, it had a completion probability of 16.1%, and they still found a way to get it done. The defense would usually take those odds, but when it's Jayden Daniels to throw into Terry McLaurin, it's not fair. We're going to dive into that very soon towards the end of Jayden Daniels' stats and the beginning of Terry McLaurin's. Buckle up for that one. Also, we had a 14-0 lead at the half against the Saints. Jayden Daniels was 17 of 19, 89.5 completion percentage, 140 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 132.5 rating, plus 6 carries for 20 yards, but he had still taken 5 sacks at the time. But that was just halftime. Those are really good stats in general, other than like total yardage, and still that was only halftime. And then, just to let you know, the previous 2 games between the Titans and the Saints, if you combine first halves from both of those games to make 4 quarters, he would have gone 29 of 32, 277 total yards and 5 touchdowns in just 2 halves of 2 games. That's insane. Also, in the Saints victory, Jayden Daniels completed 25 passes. So now Jayden Daniels has completed 277 passes this season. That is the most by a rookie quarterback in franchise history at any time during the burgundy and gold, even the times we win the Super Bowls, all of that, insane. Also, if you take a look at this passing chart from Jayden Daniels, I know he missed those deep shots towards Terry McLaurin, but what I'm mainly showing you is that a lot of people were saying that he had a propensity to only throw to the right. He was afraid of throwing to the left. I mean, that's completely out of the water with this. Also, coming out of the draft, a lot of people said Jayden Daniels is afraid of throwing over the middle. He can't throw over the middle. He's not accurate enough to throw it over the middle. It looks like he threw over the middle quite a bit in this game. I mean, I feel like it's like an even spread of everywhere on the field you have to honor, cover, and deal with as a defense. Also, even on top of like his official stat line, because technically he went 25 of 31, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns with a plus 9.4 percentage CPOE, and technically adjusted completion percentage wise, if you account for drops, he had a 92.9% completion percentage against the Saints. That is absolutely insane. That is surgical. Also, check this out. Rookie quarterbacks with 3,000 plus passing yards and 500 plus rushing yards in NFL history. Cam Newton, you know what I'm saying? That's Atlanta's finest. That's Westlake High School's finest. You know what I'm saying? Stand up, we out here. And that's 2011. Robert Griffin III's rookie season in 2012. Kyler Murray in 2019. And Jayden Daniels of 2024 right now. He's in a certain category of a stat, a very specific stat that only 3 other quarterbacks in NFL history have ever had. Also, if you change that 500 plus rushing yards to 600 plus rushing yards, you have to delete Kyler Murray from the list. So then it would only be Westlake's own Cam Newton, RG3, and our Commanders' Jayden Daniels. That's crazy that the burgundy and gold have 2 of the 3 guys that have ever done that as rookies. Insane. Also, Jayden Daniels is the first rookie quarterback and 5th player, period, in NFL history to achieve a 80% or higher completion percentage in 4 regular season games within the same season. That is insane in itself. Also, just to let you know, the updated offensive rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year odds, we don't care about defensive rookie of the year, but Jayden Daniels is running away with it as of December 16th. So this is 6 days ago, but Jayden Daniels was minus 1,100 odds. Bo Nix is plus 900. I say you go ahead and move Brock Bowers ahead of him, but you know, that's not the here nor there. You know, I'm rooting for my Georgia Bulldog, and I also feel like Brock Bowers is having a more impressive season at tight end than Bo Nix is having at quarterback, but not more impressive than Jayden Daniels, who's breaking rookie records left and right. NFL records, forget rookie records. You know how many NFL records Jayden Daniels has broken this season? And by the end of the season, maybe at the end of the regular season, something like that, maybe I'll take the time to compile all of those stats. Also, just to let you know, shouts out to Kevin Cole for pointing this out. Jayden Daniels, he's basically saying that Jayden Daniels should be offensive rookie of the year because Cam Newton in 2011 was 14th in Pro Football Focus grading and 9th in EPA per play. He won it. Dak Prescott in 2016 was 7th in Pro Football Focus grading and 3rd in EPA per play. He won it. 2020, Justin Herbert won offensive rookie of the year with a 14th Pro Football Focus grade rank out of all quarterbacks and 14th in EPA per play. In 2022, CJ Stroud was 12th and was 11th in EPA per play. Just to let you know, Jayden Daniels right now is top 5 in both. And okay, let's just go ahead and move past the rookies, because at this point he's competing with history when it comes to rookies, not these other rookies in the NFL this year right now. Let's talk about out of all NFL quarterbacks. First of all, Jayden Daniels has won 9 Rookie of the Week awards, tying Justin Herbert and Ben Roethlisberger for the most awards of that in one season since 2002. Also, per NFL Pro, Jayden Daniels has a 139.1 passer rating when targeting Terry McLaurin specifically. You know, I mean, that sounds great, right? Like passer rating, amazing, all of that. Do you know how crazy that is, though? Like how rare that is, how an elite that is? Just to let you know, that is the best passer rating of any quarterback to receiver duo in the entire NFL with a minimum of 75 targets right now. So Jayden Daniels to Terry McLaurin is the most unstoppable duo in the NFL right now. And just to let you know, when Jayden Daniels is specifically throwing the ball towards Terry McLaurin, he has a 73.4 completion percentage. He has 10 touchdowns to 1 interception and 10.4 yards per attempt. That is absolutely insane, and I feel like that's the perfect segue to get to Terry McLaurin. Well, first of all, shouts out to John Kahn for this. Terry McLaurin has been targeted 20 times on go routes this season. He has 9 catches and 4 touchdowns. Last year, he only had 9 catches and 3 touchdowns on 21 targets. He already has 313 yards on go routes compared to 230 last year in 2023. Finally, it's the #1 route he's run in 2024. Last year, it was actually the hitch route, just to let you know. Nothing to really prove there, just an interesting stat. A couple of stats all involved in that. Also, Terry McLaurin had a catch in the right side of the field, and that was only on Washington's second play against the Saints. So Cliff Kingsbury is clearly making that an emphasis for the offense. He's going to move Terry McLaurin around more often, and I believe that's a real thing. I don't think that's just like a fluke of a couple of games between the Titans and the Saints game. I don't think that's just something he's suddenly doing. I also don't think it's a coincidence that you're moving Terry McLaurin around and our offense finally looks like it's starting to, the second half didn't, but the first half started to look sort of like the first few weeks of the season where we barely punted the ball a little bit at times. But the main point is, right now, Terry McLaurin is now moving all around the field. And I believe the reason we kept him on the left side more than anything else is for Jayden Daniels to have a little less to calculate. He had to already read the defense pre-snap. He had to read so many things that keeping Terry McLaurin, your top receiver, on one side was like one less thing he had to think about and worry about. I think now that Jayden Daniels has gotten a bunch of games under his belt, he's gaining more confidence. He's learning the offense. He's learning defenses better as well. He's had to go against all sorts of defenses, throwing different things at him. I think now he's able to add that extra layer of, okay, Terry McLaurin, you can move around, and that will not scramble Jayden Daniels' brain anymore. Just to let you know, against the Saints, Terry McLaurin lined up wide left 17 times, wide right 10 times. Overall, 22 times on the left, 12 times on the right, and so shouts out to Cliff Kingsbury for moving them around way more often. Also, Terry McLaurin is the first Washington player with 10 touchdowns receptions in a season since Jordan Reed caught 11 in 2015. And just to let you know, Terry McLaurin already has 11 because he ended up with 2 in that game. Also, Terry McLaurin had surpassed 900 receiving yards for the 6th straight season. McLaurin has a record of at least 900 receiving yards and 50 receptions in 6 seasons and is one of only 4 wide receivers now joining Mike Evans, Georgia Great, AJ Green, and Randy Moss as the only wide receivers in the NFL history to ever accomplish that feat. Insane. Also, Terry McLaurin, with his second touchdown of the day, had 4 multi-touchdown games on the season so far, and it's the 6th of his career. So he only had 2 all the seasons he's been with the Burgundy and Gold. With Jay Gruden and Ron Rivera, he only had 2 such games. Now he's already had 4 this season. He has 6 total in his career. It's the first time in his career he's done so in consecutive games as well. Also, Jamar Chase is the only NFL receiver that has more touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, than Terry McLaurin. Jamar Chase has 15. Terry McLaurin has 11. Also, with the 4 multi-touchdown games that we just talked about that he had in this season, that's the second most in the NFL, only trailing Cincinnati's Jamar Chase, who has 5 by 1. And then McLaurin also has recorded his 36th career touchdown reception and has moved in to tie with Ricky Sanders at 36 for number 8 all-time in franchise history for career touchdown receptions. And we still have so many more years of Terry McLaurin, so I'm really excited. Also, moving on, Terry McLaurin, just in the first half against the Saints, had 6 receptions, 48 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 22.8 PPR points. Also, Pro Football Focus-wise, they felt like he was our best player against the Saints. He had the highest grade, an even higher grade than Jayden Daniels, with a 74.9. Also, Terry McLaurin is only 31 yards away from 1,000 receiving yards for the 5th straight season. 31 yards, 3 games to go. I'm very confident he's going to achieve that. Also, just to let you know, by the end of the day, against the Saints, he had 7 catches for 73 yards and 2 touchdowns, but it easily should have been over 175 yards with 4 touchdowns if Jayden Daniels were able to hit him on those deep shots. But right now, Terry McLaurin, based on the stats that he has so far this season with 3 games remaining, he's on pace for 82 catches, 1,176 yards, and 12 touchdowns, and that's way beyond the 1,000 mark that we really want him to hit. Again, he's only 31 away. Now moving on to offensive line, just to let you know, Pro Football Focus technically charted every single sack on Jayden Daniels except for 1. And they placed that one on Brandon Coleman. Michael Dieter was awful, but Pro Football Focus felt like Jayden Daniels was running into those sacks, kind of like the Sam Howell situation. I believe he was responsible for maybe like half of them, but I would not put all of them on him for sure. I'd super disagree with that, but I think that's pretty interesting. Just wanted to give y'all that just to let you know how Pro Football Focus felt about it. I disagree though. Then defensively, Washington has allowed 0 points in the first half 3 times this season. It's the most they've done in a single season since 2015. Hopefully we can do that a few more times these last 3 games. Also, Jake Haener, before he got benched coming out of halftime, was 4 of 10 for 49 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 3 sacks taken. It was ugly. Then Spencer Rattler came came out there in the third quarter, and it got really ugly. Big throws, all kinds of stuff. It got scary. But we ended up doing fairly well overall. But Mason Canahan brings up a good point. Points allowed by the Commanders defense over the past 3 games, including the Saints game. First half, 9 total points. Second half, 54. Right now we are a first half team, and it's not good. We need to start to learn how to play a total of 4 quarters. Now moving on to the defensive line. Just to let you know, during the Saints game, Deron Payne recorded his 4th sack of the season. That's his 34th of his career. With that sack, Payne now moved into the top 10 in Washington history since 1982. I'm surprised that all it took was for him to get the 34 to reach that. We got to do better with our history. Dorrance Armstrong also got his first sack against the Saints since week 5, and he was lighting it up the first few weeks. He got hurt against the Ravens, and the same game that we lost Jonathan Allen for most of the year. And then it just, even when he came back healthy, he just wasn't, even when he did have opportunities for sacks, he would end up with like a roughing the passer penalty and things like that. So it just hasn't worked out. And then he also had, I think he ended up with like a sack and a half in that game. Also, by the end of the first half, Johnny Newton ended up being our highest graded defensive player. And by the end of the game, it stayed that way. Johnny Newton was our highest graded defensive player overall for the entire game against the Saints with a 75.1. That's even higher than second place Mike Sanverstill, third place Marshawn Lattimore, and tied for third place Bobby Wagner with the same grade as Marshawn Lattimore. Pretty interesting. Now also, moving on to the cornerback position. Mike Sanverstill recorded his 2nd interception of the season. Remember, he's only a rookie. He should have caught another one. He should have had 3-2 in the same game. And also, when it comes to coverage grades, Pro Football Focus felt like he was the best cover corner we had in the game. They felt like it was him, then Noah Benogany, then Marshawn Lattimore. And I'm pretty surprised by that because Marshawn Lattimore never got targeted. He struck fear in both of the Saints quarterbacks that went out there. First half, Jake Haener. Second half, Spencer Rattler. None of them ever targeted Marshawn Lattimore. And just to let you know, yes, he played, and he played a lot. He actually played the most snaps out of any corner on the team. Marshawn Lattimore played 53 snaps. Mike Sanverstill played 50. Noah Benogany played 38. And Benjamin St-Juste only played 3 and still somehow managed to come into the game and get a pass interference penalty. And on 3rd and 10, nonetheless, when we ended up getting a sack, and we should have gotten off of the field, but they ended up picking up the first down. And I believe they scored that drive too. I just don't get it. But either way, Marshawn Lattimore was on the field for 53 of the 56 defensive snaps. I believe we had a 55, something like that. He only missed 2 or 3 plays at most and was never targeted. I highly doubt that goes the same way against the Eagles. I'm pretty sure they're going to try him, but they probably shouldn't, because the last time the Eagles played Marshawn Lattimore, he got a pick 6 against them. Jalen Hurts specifically. I don't think y'all want to do that again. I mean, he completely erased his side. And then Dan Quinn even gave him the game ball at the end of the game. And my boy Resh Manuel brought up a good point. That was the first time Lattimore was even near a football all day against the Saints, man. That was the closest he ever got to a football, was Dan Quinn giving him the game ball. Also, again, don't forget, Benjamin St-Juste only played 3 snaps and still found a way to cost the Commanders more yards than Marshawn Lattimore, who played 53 snaps. Also, Mike Sanverstill among all cornerbacks in the NFL since week 6, since when Dan Quinn and Joey Jr. finally learned how to use them. They moved him from the slot originally from the first couple of weeks, and what he was training for all training camp and off-season workouts was to be a slot corner. That's what he did for his last 2 years at Michigan. After moving from wide receiver to corner, he's been a slot corner the whole way up until NFL level, which is already difficult enough. To be a rookie corner, the only more difficult transition from college to NFL is quarterback. Corner is easily second hardest transition from college to NFL. So to be a rookie cornerback, to be training for the past 2.5 years basically to be a slot corner, and then mid-season they move you to outside corner, and for you to figure it out that fast. So that's why Pro Football Focus decided to, okay, let's start at week 6 once Mike Sanverstill not only learned how to play outside corner and understood the defense. How about Dan Quinn and Joey Jr. finally learned how to use him? It wasn't just him learning the defense had to learn him. And so since week 6, his Pro Football Focus grade of a 77.4 is the 9th highest out of all corners in the NFL. His 7 forced incompletions is tied for 7th. His 11 defensive stops is tied for 5th. This guy's ready to come up and make a hit on a running back or a wide receiver on the screenplay. And then his 2 interceptions is tied for 7th. So you can argue since week 6, Mike Sainristil has been a top 7, top 5 corner in the NFL. That's insane. But it's not just Mike Sainristil. Don't sleep on Noah Benogany neither now. Noah Benogany right now is 5th in yards per reception allowed. We're talking all season. We're not even starting this at a certain point like week 6. We're talking about since week 1, since the regular season started, 2024 season, 5th in yards per reception allowed, 4th in yards per target allowed, and 9th in man coverage success rate. Now, granted, he has had a few pass interferences this season, and maybe if he would have just allowed those receivers to catch those passes, those stats wouldn't look as good. But either way, along with those pass interferences, he looks like, statistically advanced stats wise, another top 10 corner. So would you try to make the argument that the Commanders have 3 top 10 corners in the NFL right now? But most importantly, even all jokes aside, he's only 24 years old. Sign that guy long-term to be a long-term slot corner, or at the very worst, a depth corner that comes in as part of the rotation if you want to go and get like a DJ Reed in free agency, or you still want to draft another starting corner in the draft, whether it be outside slot, whatever you want to do. And then also moving on to the kicker situation, just to let you know, I know a lot of people have been screaming at Adam Peters and blaming him. Why did you let Joey Slye go? Now look at the situation that we're in. Well, just to let you know, even Joey Slye wasn't the answer. I'm defending Adam Peters right now. I'm standing up for his honor, because I've been seeing people say that Adam Peters made a mistake by letting Joey Slye go. That's like the one blemish on his track record right now since he's been the Commanders GM. Well, actually, no. First of all, let's start here. Slye is 23 of 30 this year. He's 30th out of all kickers in field goal percentage. Let's start there. Also, remember that Adam Peters went and got Brandon McManus in free agency so that he could let Joey Slye go. And then Brandon McManus ran into some off the field issues, and then all of that just ended up going away, getting dropped and all of that, which is really annoying because now he's going crazy for the Packers. Just to let you know, he's only missed 1 field goal since the Packers went and signed him. He's 14 of 15. That's 93.3%. He's made every single PAT attempt as well at 100%. And he's even made a 51-yarder. That should have been us. That literally feels like the Yu-Gi-Oh meme where he's on the ground screaming, "It should have been me." Like, you cannot blame Adam Peters for this kicker situation that we're in, man. And then Dan Quinn or Adam Peters, somebody gave credit to Lance Newmark, our assistant GM that we brought over from the Lions, for being the one that's scouting the NFL landscape, and anybody that just happens to be on their couch that's ever kicked the ball in the NFL, he's the one that's trying to find guys to bring them in. He's the reason we have Zane Gonzalez and Greg Joseph right now. We're on to our 7th kicker since March, since we tried to sign Brandon McManus before all of that issue, all that drama came up, which ended up not even being a thing, which is even more annoying because he's going crazy for the Packers. And so the Packers right now have the kicker that Adam Peters wanted, and he's going crazy. So if anything, you need to give Adam Peters credit and foresight for knowing that Brandon McManus would ball out once he was finally allowed to kick, once whatever that situation was stopped. Also, here's every NFC team's 2024 point differential right here on the screen. So out of the entire NFC, we are in 4th place. It's just so beautiful to look at the Falcons down there at -49, even though it's amazing that the way that their record is set up, a -49 point differential doesn't make any sense how they have a positive record right now. And then also the Bears. They haven't won a game since they were talking trash against us, and we hit them with that Hail Mary. So that's even better. Bears fans and Eagles fans have been the most deserving of everything bad this season, even more than Cowboys fans. So I just love to see what happened to the Bears. Also, here's a comparison for the Commanders' offense versus defensive ranks right now. Just comparing 2023 to 2024, we've improved mightily on offense and a significant amount on defense as well. From points per game in 2023 to 2024, we went from 25th to 6th. In yards per play, 23rd to 9th. EPA per dropback, 26th to 4th. And EPA per rush from 20th to 3rd. Then defensively, we went from dead last to 16th. The yards per play, second to last, 31st to 16th. EPA per dropback, dead last to 20th. And then EPA per rush, 21st to 25th. So the only thing we got worse at was 4 spots in allowing yards of the run game against us and EPA per rush. That's it. Every other way, every other important metric that you can look at, the Commanders are way better this year than they were last year. And I'm pretty sure with Marshawn Lattimore healthy and Jonathan Allen potentially coming back, this run defense, don't be surprised if it's suddenly just way better. Also, Washington is 6-3 against NFC opponents, and that's their best start against NFC opponents in a single season since 2018. We've been killing the NFC right now. That's why we have a lot of tiebreakers, a lot of the teams that are trying to fight for the playoffs right now, because we have better NFC records than those guys. Also, for the first time since 2016, Washington will have a winning record on the season with 9 wins already, and we still have 3 more games to go. Let's get it. That's insane, though. We're already just 9-5, and this is our first time having 9 wins since 2016. This is our first time having a winning record since 2016. That's insane. Also, with their 9-5 record, Washington has their best start through 14 games since 1992. I wasn't even alive yet. Golly. Also, with 9 wins this season, head coach Dan Quinn joins George Allen as the only head coaches in Burgundy and Gold franchise history to win 9+ games in their first season as head coach with the organization. Shouts out to Dan Quinn and company. Also, right now we're the 7th seed in the NFL playoffs on the NFC side. Currently, we have an 84% chance of making the playoffs. If we lose to the Eagles, it drops to 78%. If we beat the Eagles, it rises all the way to 94% chance to to go to the playoffs. Let's get it. Also, shouts out to We Want Dallas for pointing this out. I know the projections all have Washington at plus 80% chance of making the playoffs, but if next week Philly beats Washington, Atlanta beats the Giants, and Tampa Bay beats Dallas, all favorites likely, suddenly week 17 against Atlanta becomes a virtual must-win to get in. I mean, honestly, it doesn't even honestly matter what happens in the Eagles game, even though I still really want to beat them, and I'm not looking ahead of them. Sorry, little Falcons. They're too sorry for me to even give them that type of attention and honor, even that level of respect. Everything laser focused, tunnel vision on the Eagles right now. But ultimately, you beat the Falcons, you're pretty much into the playoffs. That's the only game that truly really matters right now. Beating the Eagles could put you in contention for potentially still finding a way to win the NFC East. But as far as just making the playoffs, at least getting that 7th seed, you beat the Falcons, you're good to go. Also, shouts out to Grant Paulson for pointing this out. The Commanders could still lock up a playoff spot this weekend, and this is what needs to happen. It's 3 scenarios, as you can see on the screen right now. One scenario, Washington has to win, plus an Atlanta loss or tie, plus Rams loss or tie. Or scenario 2, Washington wins, plus Atlanta loss or tie, or Seattle loss or tie. Or third option, Washington ties with the Eagles, plus an Atlanta loss, an Arizona loss or tie, plus a Rams loss or tie, plus a Seahawks loss or tie, just to let you know. And then lastly, before we move on to a bunch of random stats, last team stat, tough stat for Washington. Shouts out to JP family for pulling this one. The Commanders are 0-4 against teams with a winning record in 2024 this season, making them the only team in the NFL without a win in such games. We are the only team in the NFL that hasn't beat a winning record team. That is scary. That is the scariest stat out of anyone I've given you so far. Really, every stat I've given you were great stats up until then, but y'all know I'm always going to keep it a thou wow with y'all. If there's a negative stat out there, I'm going to find it. I'm not about to sit here and hide the negative stats from y'all. We just happen to have a lot of great stats to talk about. And then remember during my live stream, moving on to all of the random stats I have, remember during my live stream, as soon as we won that coin toss, before Jayden Daniels ever even stepped foot on the field, I was like, man, it feels like we win coin tosses a lot this year. I gotta look it up. Well, I forgot to look it up, but shouts out to NFL notifications, because they have, I could actually show you on the screen right now, the exact number of times that teams have won and lost the coin tosses right now, and us and the Browns and the Vikings lead the NFL with an 11-3 record on coin tosses. We win coin tosses even more than we win games right now. Shouts out to Detroit, because they're a great team, but they're 5-9 on coin tosses. Same thing with the Kansas City Chiefs, 5-9. So this does not directly correlate with whether you'll win the game or not at all. This data is completely irrelevant to that, but it's still interesting. It just felt like we were winning a lot of coin tosses this year, and now we're 11-3 on it, so that makes a lot of sense. Also, after the weekend finished up, before Thursday and whatever happened on Saturday, just to let you know, the Commanders draft pick in the 3rd round improved by 2 positions because of the Miami loss, and then the 5th round pick improved by 2 positions because we beat the Saints and we have their pick from John Ridgeway. So for us beating the Saints, that moved that up 2 picks as well. So the Dolphins losing, the Saints losing makes our mid-round picks get better. Also, the Washington Commanders could have very easily have been just like the Bears this season. Shouts out to Scott Abraham for pointing this out. Rebuilding team, rookie quarterback, tough to watch, but they're not. It's not even close. The difference is coaching and culture. That wasn't technically a stat, but I feel like I had to include that. Also, in week 16, we might actually get Jayden Daniels starting for the Commanders, Carson Wentz starting for the Chiefs, and Sam Howell starting for the Seahawks. Well, Pat Mahomes ended up playing for the Chiefs, but I just thought that was a pretty interesting scenario that almost happened. I just wanted to make sure I included that. And again, moving on to the very last stat. Shouts out to Herdesh Mata. I believe that's how you pronounce that. I'm sorry if I butchered it in any way. From RICO'S Rag for bringing up some very interesting stats. Brought up some really cool ones. So first of all, stat number 1, 8,106. How about that? For all of those complaining about how Washington won, I have a stat for you. The last time the team won on the road after a bye week was week 5 of the 2002 season. That was 8,106 days ago. Insane. How about this one too? -38. Last season, the Commanders had the worst point differential in the NFL at -189. This year, the team has improved on that metric with a top 10 point differential at +81. However, one area the Commanders have struggled late in games, the team is currently at a -38 point differential in the fourth quarter this year. Gotta be better. Also, last number, 52.9. After being in the bottom 10 in the league in third down conversion percentage last season, the Commanders are top 10 this year, coming into the game converting 44.10% of the season third down conversions. Against the Saints, though, the Washington Commanders were able to convert 9 of 17, which is 52.9%, so even better than their top 10 average on the season. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you thought about everything discussed in the video. Please stick on that like button, stick on the subscription button, and also share this video to everybody you know. And if you made it this far in the video, salute to you. I really appreciate you for even caring about stats as much as I do. Appreciate you big time. Again, do not leave this video without leaving a like. And also, when you leave this video, after you leave this video and you left that like, make sure you go follow, subscribe to Rio Robinson, Ed Oliver, and Louie T everywhere that you possibly can. And even come back to follow and subscribe to my own page, Rico of Street Scores. I really appreciate y'all, man. Again, let me know in the comment section how you feel about all of these stats that I gave you, especially the one bad stat. I mean, technically I had another one with the point differential in the fourth quarter, but the worst stat and the scariest stat of all is that the Washington Commanders are 0-4 against winning teams. Do you feel like we're frauds, or do you feel like it's time for us to finally prove ourselves against the Eagles? Or if the Falcons somehow have a winning record by the time we play them, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, man, really appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all leave a like on the way out. I'm gonna catch y'all later, and next week with another street stats video. I'm out.